You know what keeps me up at night? What the fuck happens when a nation collectively decides that soldiers patrolling their streets is just another Tuesday, and by the time they realize they should have been screaming, there's a rifle barrel pointed at their goddamn ballot box? Listen, I need you to feel this in your fucking bones, in that pit of your stomach dread that hits you at 3 a.m. when you suddenly remember you're mortal and everything you love can be destroyed. Because what Governor Pritzker just described to Rachel Maddow isn't some abstract political theater bullshit. It's the smell of democracy's corpse before anyone's officially declared it dead. This is the rehearsal, the dress-up game, the goddamn trial run for what comes next. And if you can't feel the cold sweat of that reality dripping down your spine right now, you're not paying attention. The dumping Donald and his merry band of constitution-wiping dipshits have decided that Chicago, that beautiful, gritty, fuck you right back city, is going to be their testing ground. They're running ICE agents in military fatigues down Michigan Avenue like it's fucking Baghdad, complete with automatic weapons and the kind of gear that makes your average douchebag at a gun show cream his tactical pants. Black Hawk helicopters circling overhead like mechanical vultures. Apartment buildings ransacked with the subtlety of a SWAT team on meth, doors kicked in, families dragged out while some shitbird with a badge and zero fucking accountability tears through their lives looking for... what exactly? The premise doesn't even matter anymore. The cruelty, the spectacle, the normalization, that's the whole cocksucking point. As Albert Camus once wrote, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. But what happens when rebellion itself becomes criminalized, when the mere act of walking down your own street without papers becomes grounds for militarized harassment, when the fucksticks in charge have turned freedom into a permission slip they can revoke at gunpoint? Part 1. The Tactical Fascism Fashion Show Picture. This visceral nightmare. You're walking to grab coffee in downtown Chicago, that sharp wind off the lake cutting through your jacket, the rumble of the L overhead mixing with traffic noise, and the usual urban symphony of car horns and construction. The smell of roasting beans and exhaust fumes, that distinctly city perfume that means home to 8 million people. Then suddenly there's this presence, this visual violence that doesn't belong. A line of men in military-grade tactical gear, assault rifles held across their chests, boots hitting pavement in synchronized thuds that echo off glass and steel like a heartbeat. That's all wrong. These aren't soldiers deployed to a war zone. These are ICE and CBP agents. Immigration and Customs Enforcement turned into Donnie Caligula's personal brown shirts, dressed up like they're about to storm Fallujah. They're not here because there's an actual threat. They're here because someone needs you to see them, to smell that gun oil and tactical fabric smell that says, "State violence available here." To hear those boots and feel your stomach clench with primal recognition that predators are near. Bertrand Russell understood this sick calculus when he noted that the whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people so full of doubts. These jackbooted fuckwads marching through Chicago aren't here to make anyone safer. They're here to make you doubt whether safety is even something you're entitled to anymore. Their visual propaganda, a walking reminder that Donald's shriveled empty nutsack has the power to turn your city into occupied territory on a whim. Governor Pritzker nailed it with surgical precision. This is about getting people used to the idea, the normalization of the abnormal. Today, it's ICE agents cosplaying as Delta Force. Tomorrow, it's actual military troops. By 2026, when midterm elections roll around and these shit goblins realize they're about to lose Congress, those troops will be deployed to protect the vote, which is fascist speak for intimidate anyone who might vote against us into staying the fuck home. This isn't conspiracy theory dipshittery. This is pattern recognition. This is reading the room when the room is on fire and someone's blocking the exits. Part 2. The Ballot Box Hostage Crisis. Let's travel deeper into this festering wound of American democracy. Donald Turtlump didn't just wake up one day and decide Chicago needed to look like occupied territory for shits and giggles. This is strategic. This is intentional. This has the stench of long-term planning by people who've studied how democracies die, not from sudden coups, but from slow suffocation, from normalizing the abnormal until nobody remembers what normal even felt like. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote that man is condemned to be free because once thrown into the world, he is responsible for everything he does. But what responsibility do we bear when freedom itself is being systematically dismantled, when the very mechanisms designed to protect our autonomy are weaponized against us? When some shitstick in a suit decides that democracy is negotiable and your vote is only legitimate if it benefits him? The timeline Pritzker laid out should make every hair on your body stand at attention. Militarize the cities now, normalize the presence of armed agents on streets and in neighborhoods, then deploy those forces to polling places in 2026 under the guise of election security. And when, not if, when, the results don't go their way, use those same forces to confiscate ballot boxes and investigate fraud. The same tired-ass lie that Trumpty-mouth anus has been peddling since 2020, despite losing every credible legal challenge and getting laughed out of court by judges he appointed himself. The Department of Justice, now fully transformed into Donald's personal law firm and revenge machine, has demanded election data from all 50 states. Not because there's actual evidence of fraud. There never fucking is. But because they need the infrastructure in place to challenge any result that doesn't favor them. They need the bureaucratic machinery oiled and ready to go when they decide that democracy has become inconvenient. Imagine the sensory reality of that future. Polling places ringed by armed men in tactical gear, the visual weight of weapons designed to kill pressing down on your civic right to vote. The sound of boots on pavement as you stand in line, that constant reminder that violence is an option on the table. The taste of fear in your mouth. That bitter coating on your tongue when you realize that casting a ballot has become an act of courage rather than routine citizenship. John Stuart Mill warned us that bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing. Well, we're looking on, and the question is, whether we're going to do something before it's too late to do anything at all. Part 3. The Slow Motion Coup. Here's where the nausea really sets in, where your guts start churning with the recognition of where this road leads. This isn't about immigration enforcement. This was never about immigration enforcement. Immigration is just the excuse, the narrative wrapping paper on a package that contains something far more sinister. This is about establishing the precedent that military force on American streets is acceptable. Normal. Welcome, even. Michel de Montaigne observed that there is no man so good who, were he to submit all his thoughts and actions to the laws, would not deserve hanging 10 times in his life. But what happens when the laws themselves become instruments of oppression? When the Constitution is treated like bathroom tissue by dipshits who swore an oath to protect it? The apartment building raid that Maddow referenced, that wasn't law enforcement. That was state terrorism. Doors kicked in throughout an entire building, families dragged out and detained while agents ransacked their homes without bothering with niceties like warrants or probable cause, or any of those other constitutional protections that apparently only apply to people Donaldo Schitzberger personally likes. Think about the visceral reality of that experience, the explosive crack of your door being breached, that primal spike of adrenaline and terror, the rough hands and shouted commands, your children screaming, your possessions scattered and destroyed while some fuckstick with a badge roots through your underwear drawer, looking for evidence of the crime of existing while brown. That's what happened. In America, in Chicago, in 2025. And the scary part isn't that it happened. though that's plenty fucking scary. It's that it happened and the sky didn't fall. The Republic didn't immediately rise up in righteous fury. Most Americans probably saw a headline, felt a vague discomfort, and moved on to the next dopamine hit from their social media feed. The normalization is already happening, and we're only in the early stages of this shitstorm. Isaac Bonewits, that brilliant bastard of modern paganism, taught us that the opposite of a correct statement is a false statement, but the opposite of a profound truth may well be another profound truth. The profound truth here is this: democracy dies not when bad people do bad things, but when good people decide that fighting back is too exhausting, too scary, too disruptive to their comfortable lives. The other profound truth is that by the time fighting back stops being a choice and becomes survival necessity, you've already lost most of what you were fighting for. Pritzker isn't being hyperbolic when he connects these dots. The militarization, the election interference infrastructure being built, the rhetoric about fraud and stolen votes that's already being seeded for 2026. This is the play. This is the plan. And it's happening in slow motion so we don't react with the alarm we should feel. Like the classic frog in boiling water metaphor, except the frog in this case is American democracy, and the shitheads turning up the heat are doing it while insisting everything is fine, and anyone who objects is the real problem. Peter Singer reminds us that if possessing a higher degree of intelligence does not entitle one human to use another for his or her own ends, how can it entitle humans to exploit non-humans for the same purpose? Strip away the animal rights context and you've got the fundamental question of authoritarian power. What gives any human being the right to dominate another? What entitles Donnie Turda Trump and his crew of constitutional arsonists to decide that your rights are negotiable, that your vote only counts if they approve it, that your city can become a military zone because they decided it should be? The answer is nothing. Nothing entitles them to this. They're doing it anyway because power unchecked becomes power abused, and abuse unchallenged becomes abuse normalized, and normalized abuse becomes just the way things are. That's the trajectory we're on. That's the path these fucksticks have chosen for us. The reality. Check so. What do we do? What's the move when you're watching a slow-motion fascist takeover and most people are scrolling past it between cat videos and arguments about whether some celebrity's latest bullshit matters? John Dewey understood that education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. So educate yourself and everyone around you about what's happening, not with doom-scrolling panic, but with clear-eyed recognition of the stakes. Talk to your neighbors, organize, make plans. Because Pritzker is right. They're conditioning us for 2026, for armed agents at polling places, for the confiscation of ballot boxes, for the death of democratic norms dressed up in the language of security and fraud prevention. The taste of this moment should be bitter on your tongue. The sound of boots on American streets should trigger every alarm bell evolution gave you. The sight of military gear deployed against civilians should make your vision narrow with fight-or-flight response. That's not paranoia. That's pattern recognition. That's your nervous system correctly identifying a threat to your survival. Because here's the thing about slow-motion coups. They only work if people don't recognize them for what they are, until it's too late. The moment we collectively say, no more, the moment we stop treating this as normal, the moment we decide that Trump the Turd and his collection of bootlicking enablers have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed, that's when the trajectory can change. But that requires something from all of us: the willingness to be uncomfortable, to disrupt our own lives, to fight back while fighting back still matters. As Simone de Beauvoir wrote, one's life has value so long as one attributes value to the life of others by means of love, friendship, indignation, and compassion. If you're not feeling indignation right now, visceral, gut-churning, teeth-clenching indignation, then you're not paying attention. And if you're feeling it but not acting on it, then you're complicit in what comes next. The dress rehearsal is happening now. The real show comes in 2026. And by the time we're in the final act, it might be too fucking late to change the ending. So feel this. Understand this. And for fuck's sake, do something about it before there's nothing left to do.